Okay, so we're going to take a look at the scapular muscles before we stick on the trapezius and latissimus dorsi, because those muscles kind of cover everything a little bit, so it makes sense to study what's underneath them first. And I just had this thought that maybe I could use these big old eggs that we use for the lumbar muscles. Teres major is fairly eggy, so we're only really interested in these two muscles on the scapula, teres major and the infraspinatus, and they're fairly distinct. The teres major is kind of like this, torpedo shaped and pretty rounded, and this is going to the humerus, going around to the front of the humerus. It's going to have this upwards angle to it. Yeah, something like that should work pretty well right out of the gate. It's attaching right to the bottom of the scapula there, so something like this should work okay. Flatten it down a little bit, but the nature of that muscle is that it's pretty rounded, so that should give us most of what we need. And then we'd have the teres minor just above that, which is going to the back of the arm here. So teres major, let me pull this humerus out a little bit so we can get a better feeling for what's happening here. So humerus comes out a bit, teres major dives around to the front, right on the inside of the arm. So what happens is when that acts, it either pulls the arm towards the body, like any muscle on the scapula. We have 4 muscles sitting on the surface of the scapula there. Only really interested in 2, but even if we look at all 4 of them, they're all pulling the arm towards the body in one way or another. Right? They're all affecting the arm. So teres major and infraspinatus, the 2 muscles that we are interested in the most, will pull the arm towards the body, and they will work together to do that. But then they will work in opposing actions to rotate the arm. So you think teres major going to the front of the arm, grabs that, spins it round that way. So that's the twisting action of the teres major. And the infraspinatus, which we're going to look at, is going to the back of the arm, so doing something different, and so it will spiral it the opposite way, right? It will pull it around to the back. Teres minor, I guess, you could think of the teres major and teres minor as big brother, little brother, and teres minor, not wanting to be like its bigger brother, goes to the back of the arm, joins the infraspinatus there, like in an ultimate act of deceit against its brother, joins up with the infraspinatus, and the infraspinatus and teres major are constantly in opposition, right? One rotating the arm forwards, the other one rotating it backwards, except when the arm comes towards the body, and then they team up. So I don't know, I feel like there's a film there somewhere. Anyway, let's stick on an infraspinatus because we got our teres major pretty quickly, and my kind of cheat sheet for that is it rounded and torpedo shaped? Does it slightly point upwards? Is it pointing to the bottom of the scapula? If I can go tick, 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 then I'm good on the teres major, and then I can move on to infraspinatus, which is going to be a much flatter form. So let's shrink this down. And the personality of the muscle is to be flat. Right? You can make it more rounded, of course, by working it out and bulging it up. But probably if you're doing that, you'll probably be bulking up the teres major as well. So there'll always be some sort of distinction between these. If you're not particularly muscular, then what you'll find is this is really just going to give you a flat plane on the body. This coming to the back of the humerus. So just grabbing hold of the whole spine of the scapula there. That's why it's called the infraspinatus. It's just below the spine of the scapula. Yeah, and then grabbing hold of the humerus there. So in life and in an anatomy book, these muscles won't necessarily look like that because we have the deltoid covering this through here. So that's going to look more like a triangle. But that's the thing with the back, is you have to start peeling muscles off to really understand the priority of form. And our biggest priority is the bone, which is the egg shape of the rib cage, and then the scapula sitting on top of that. And then we go next level up with our deep muscles, the lumbar muscles, serratus, rhomboids, and these muscles of the scapula, and then finally we'll layer on the trapezius and latissimus. Well, just so you don't feel shortchanged, let's put in the other 2 muscles of the arm, but they're really not so important. Teres minor is going to be filling in this small gap that we have between teres major and infraspinatus. You will see it now and again in life. It's going to be poking through in between those two muscles. And again, going to the back of the arm, back to the outside of the arm, so it's working with the infraspinatus in spinning the arm around. So something like that. And one thing that's going to be really important, and we'll look at it more as we look at the arms, is that little gap in between the teres major and teres minor. That is significant because it's like they're like chopsticks, grabbing hold of the triceps. So the triceps itself has a section of it that goes to the scapula, and that's going to be what's diving through there and being what pinched by the chopsticks of the teres major, teres minor. And then up here, so we have infraspinatus, the muscle below the spine of the scapula, and then we have the supraspinatus, the muscle above the spine of the scapula. And that's going to be like a fairly egg-shaped form, or that's how we're going to see it if we see it in life. Fills up that little triangle at the top there, and then dives down underneath that spine. So grab hold of the top of the humerus. So because it's grabbing hold above the joint, it can spin the humerus upwards. And there's like, yeah, there's a little hole that it's diving through on the scapula through there. So again, you might see this in life. You'd see it on, like think about a thin, strong person, you know, that kind of wiry physique. When they lift the arms, you'll see a little egg-shaped bulge through there. But generally, if someone's very lean, you won't see it, you know, if they're too thin to have it properly developed, or if they've got very muscular trapezius muscles, the trapezius will be covering that and will soften it. So it's not something that you're going to look out for a lot. It's one of those things that now and again you'll see it and you'll go, ah, there it is, you know, and that's as much as I found that I've gotten out of that muscle. But it's a very, like, when you see it, it's a very nice, sweet little leg shape that you get on the form. So it's worth knowing about, but I prioritize your teres major, round, sausagey, torpedo-like muscle, and the infraspinatus, what I guess the largest muscle of the scapula, but very flat by comparison. And that's it. Some go to the front, some go to the back, one goes to the top. There's your muscles of the scapula.